Hello and welcome to my podcast on radical self-love, an Ayurvedic perspective on healing body and mind. My name is Sandra Hayes and I'm a Vedic practitioner, meaning I utilize Ayurveda, yoga and Vedic astrology as well as transformational creativity to help you become a conscious creator of your own life, health and well-being. For more information and for access to my online learning platform, The Little School of Happiness, please go to www.sandrahayes.eu. Hello again. Today, before we dive into the guts of Ayurveda a little bit more, today I want to talk about the 5 elements and the doshas. But first, let me answer some questions that came up that I find actually quite important as well to include here because, they're very good questions. The first one is, how do I know that I have unresolved emotions in me? This question relates to the last episode where I was talking about Samkhya. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes, please try and go back and listen at least to the previous 2 episodes where I explain Samkhya philosophy, which is really the basis of Ayurveda. So to really understand Ayurveda, we have to understand Samkhya. And a part of Samkhya is that we learn that everything starts really in the subtle realm. That means it doesn't start issues or diseases don't start in the body, but they start in the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind includes everything, all memories that we've ever had and all emotions that we feel or ever have felt, really. And the other thing is that all of life, everything can be seen as a digestion, not only in the physical body, because it's, microcosm and macrocosm, everything, the same principle of Samkhya applies to all levels of existence. And in the mind also, we can see this as a form of digestion. That means we take in information through our senses, we process them, and then we have to eliminate them. And issues arise when we take in more than we can chew, literally, in the body as well as in the mind, when we can't process something or when we can't eliminate something and it gets stuck. And so the question is, how do I actually know I have unresolved emotions in me? And this is quite a simple thing, really. For one, when we have any negative emotions, like resentment or sadness, or when we feel melancholic, or when we are angry, then that is an emotion that is not been processed yet. And the heavier the emotion, the harder it is to shift. And if you remember, we were talking about the gunas, tamas, sattva, and rajas. Tamas is the heaviest, and the gunas, they influence everything, the emotions, the body, the physical body. And tamas is the heavy, the quality of heaviness. And if we want to change that into a sattvic state, into a balanced and beautiful state, creative state, then we have to bring rajas in to balance it out. So that means we have to bring movement in again and dynamism to stoke the digestive fire in the mind. And that means that when we feel angry, that's actually not a bad sign. It's a good sign of something being actually ready to shift. Only we have to be very careful not to let it out on someone else. We have to find a really good channel for our anger, something that can express it safely, like physical movement or creative expression, a vocal expression, whatever you're drawn to. But best is to keep it, creative and not aggressive towards somebody. So that's, of course, important. And another sign then is when our energy is low. If we lack energy and if we're tired a lot of the time, that means that our body or our unconscious mind in that case is using our energy for something else. And that is going to be digestion or the processing of deep emotions. And that's a sure sign when we just simply lack energy. And we know this in the body as well as in the mind. We know sometimes we tend to wake up in the morning full of energy and we look forward to the day, and sometimes we don't want to get out of bed at all. And the difference really is what is in us, what is going on internally. Is there something still digesting? And the unconscious mind is just that. It's the unconscious mind. So most of the time we are not conscious of it. We just don't really know sometimes what exactly is going on, but we do know something is going on. So these are the sure signs. It's the lack of energy and the negative emotions that we feel. And we have to also be very mindful of that, because sometimes we can be stuck in that state for a long time and we think that this is normal. The energy level that we experience is a normal energy level, but in fact it's a low energy level, and we only realize this later, once we've managed through treatment or through therapy or detoxification or whatever else it is, lifestyle change. We suddenly experience a shift and we feel much better. We feel, oh, all of a sudden now we have a lot of energy. We get so much done and we don't feel drained or tired at all. And we just feel happy most of the time. And we didn't know how this actually felt before that. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to recognize if it has been going on since a while. So we have to be really mindful, and that's where mindfulness practices, of course, come in. And then the second question relates to the first question. Is a very logical follow-up question, really, is what can I do to help it? And this is, again, the same principles apply to mental digestion as well as to physical digestion. And you know yourself, if you have eaten too much food, for example, over the Christmas period where we are all eating too much food, so what you do now? First of all, you stop eating more. You stop, this indulgence, especially the kind of food is weighing you down. So over Christmas, we might eat a lot of cookies and cake and chocolate and big, roasts and gravy and all of that kind of thing. But we can't really continue to do that if we want to feel better. So that's the first thing we do. We stop eating so much, and we stop eating heavy food and food that we simply know that is not doing us any good. So what we do, we take a break. We give our digestion a break. We eat less and we eat better quality of food. So that's the first thing. And that is the same thing we should do mentally as well. Take a break of putting in too much of information, especially negative information. And that can mean to stop listening to the news for a while. And the news, this is, of course, it's important to be informed, but it's also really important. Any information we take in, we have to be able to process it and express it in some way. So if we take in information just for the sake of the information, then it will get stuck. And if it's negative information, it's like eating a heavy meal with no way of eliminating it again. So we really have to be careful that when we do watch a lot of news or listen or read a lot of news, that we find some way to actually process it and express it. Then maybe we want to become an activist and we want to join, our local Amnesty International group or whatever it is that we do, get active and actually do something. But if we're just sitting on the couch and taking in negative news every day, something new that we can't really do anything about or don't want to do anything about, then this is not doing anything good for us or for anyone else. And the same also counts for other things that we put into our system. For example, watching TV. Most of us, and it's easy to get drawn into it, and I know it myself, to binge watch a series, or to watch movies. And I love movies, and I don't think there's anything wrong with movies or TV in general, but it can get too much. And especially for those of you maybe who are working a lot in front of a screen already, in front of a computer already, and then in the evening relax by sitting in front of another screen, a TV screen, and watch a movie. And especially also the choice of movie. If we are watching, for example, horror movies and thrillers with a lot of dark material in it, then of course this is heavy nutrients, heavy nutrition, or I'm not sure if it's nutrition at all. It's heavy food for the mind. And so just to be aware of that this is nothing other than a digestion as well. And we can't expect our mental digestion to go really well if what we take in through our senses, and that counts for other senses as well. It's not just the watching, it's also the listening. What do we listen to every day? What kind of people are around us every day? Do we listen to a lot of gossip or drama or other negative influences in our life, or whatever it is? All the senses, including the sense of touch, the sense of taste as well, in our body, it's the same thing. Do we eat a lot of extreme tastes, like something really extremely salty or extremely sweet, or is it balanced? So all our senses are the gates into our inner world. They are the gateways into our internal world, the body and the mind and the unconscious mind and the self ultimately. And so we should just be very careful of what we let in through those gates. And the other thing is also what would we do after some time of heavy food. We give it a break, and maybe even we go on a diet, or we take a fast, or we take particular care that we really do give the digestion a break. Not only change the quality of food again, but also eating less and just have a little bit of a break. And the same mentally as well. Give your mental digestion a little bit of a break. That means maybe doing a regular meditation. It's a perfect mental fast, or deep relaxation, to give all the senses an actual break. In yoga, there's a beautiful practice called pratyahara, which means sense withdrawal. And it means the senses are literally withdrawing from the outer world into the inner world. It means going inward, paying attention to your inner self instead of the outer influences. And there are many beautiful techniques like yoga nidra or inner journeys, body rotation, where you lie down and you pay attention to the different body parts one after another, or breath awareness. There really is a lot of choice. And if you did this a few minutes a day, it makes a huge difference. And then the third thing, so this is the intake through the senses, watching what we take in. Then there's the processing itself that needs to have its time to do its work. So that means taking a break, a mental fast like meditation. And then the third thing is the output. So the elimination. We have to make sure that we actually express as well, express ourselves. So whatever comes in has to come out, at least the leftovers of it. So that means we have to be able to vocalize, we have to be able to talk about our experiences, our emotions. We have to be able to do something about it. And that can mean practical things. Like I said, when you're watching a lot of news, then go and do something practical and active about it. It can also be something more abstract. It can be that maybe we just create something in a creative way create some art or build a piece of furniture or whatever, think of something and then create it. Also, we can express through, our muscular system, just, our legs, go for a walk, or go exercising, or, do something physically that really gives you a chance to express, to let things out a little bit. One of my favorite ways to express is writing. I just tend to love to write, and I think for me it's a perfect way of expressing myself, because I tend to write on my iPad. I prefer writing on my iPad to a journal. A lot of my friends prefer journaling with a pen and paper. For me, it's not the same, because my typing, thankfully, is quite good. I can type with 10 fingers and I'm quite fast. My handwriting is not so good. I have a terrible claw and I have a hard time reading it myself later. And my thoughts are quite fast though. So I need my hands to catch up with my thoughts, and I can do that better on my iPad. But either way, it really is about using the hands. And the hands are a little bit further away from the brain. So it's just simply a matter of letting them write. Let your hands write and not think about it. Don't think about it. Just let your hands write it out. And do that for 10 minutes, 20 minutes or longer. Just let it all out. And sometimes when there is a certain issue, when there is an emotion or an experience that you're processing internally, maybe some issue you have with a loved one or whatever it is, and then write about that. But don't write about it in a way that you're thinking about it, but just maybe write one sentence about it. If you, for example, have an issue at the moment with your father, then write my father or my father and I, and then the rest of it, let it just come out. Don't stop the movement of your hands, just simply write. And that can be a really wonderful way. And of course, there's many more direct ways of using transformational creativity in order to really very consciously create channels from your unconscious mind and from certain issues, trying to recognize certain issues and create a certain channel from that issue out into the outer world so that can be eliminated. But now let us move on and talk about the 5 elements of Ayurveda, the Pancha Mahabhutas. And if you haven't listened to the episodes on Samkhya, just go back and listen to those first so you have an understanding of what it is that I am talking about now, because it is all a part of the progression, a part of the evolution of matter. And the Pancha Mahabhutas are really the 5 elements, the 5 basic elements of nature. And that means, it's just a different way of looking at the world. Now we have our periodic table and we divide all the atoms we know into, certain categories. And the ancient rishis have done exactly the same, really. They have also divided the particles and atoms and molecules of everything in nature into 5 basic categories, really, and they are the 5 elements. They have described all elements that have the qualities of fire with the element of fire. That means any molecules really that are hot or heat producing or acidic, for example, or cutting, that have the property of cutting through something, or are transformational, like for example in the body our digestive enzymes or the stomach acid. These are categorized as fire element. And then the element of water is, of course, then all the molecules that are liquid. And have a cooling effect and attach to something. So all the qualities of water and the qualities of earth are all the elements, all the molecules that are more solid, and maybe heavy and static or hard or bigger as well. And then the air elements are lighter again and have the quality of movement and dryness and lightness. And the elements of space are just like that. They are spacious. They are the space that holds all the other elements in it. And so these are really basic descriptions of the inorganic matter, the molecules that everything exists of, including our own bodies. And the reason why they are called the Pancha Mahabhutas, the great essences, the great elements, is that really everyone, consists of those elements. There is nobody who does not have the element of fire in them, or of water, or of earth, or air, or space. We all have, we all have the heat aspect, the energy in us, the body heat, the enzymes, all of that transformative action. We all have the light of perception. We all have, receptors in us that react to light, and all of that relates to fire. And we also all have earth elements. We all have solid matter in us that just simply doesn't move, like the stability of our bone structure, our muscles. And also the water element. We all, of course, consist of so much water. All the bodily fluids are water element. And also we all have the air element within us, because there is always movement within us. Everything in us constantly moves and changes, like the flow of our blood circulation, or the beating of the heart, and the firing of messages through the nervous system. All of that relates to the air element. And also the space element. Of course, we consist also of space. There's space between every particle, quite a lot of space even. And while we all consist of all these 5 elements, none of us is completely the same. These 5 elements are, variable. There are people with more fire elements than others. There are people with more water elements than others. There are people with more air element than others, and so on. And you can see this if somebody, for example, has more fire element within the body, then they have a higher heat, slightly higher body temperature. They have maybe more digestive enzymes. They have more stomach acid. They are more hungry than others. Maybe they also have more light receptors. That means maybe they are more sensitive to light or to the sun, and therefore have lighter skin or lighter hair. If somebody has more air elements, then they have a lot of movement within them. Even in their mind, they might have a lot of thought, a lot of mental activity, or also maybe physical activity. They might be people who move a lot generally, or whose nervous system fires more than others, and maybe they are more sensitive than others. And there are also the people with more water element that are just a little bit, purely physically, they're more plump, as in they are more well hydrated. They have beautifully shiny hair and shiny eyes and smooth, well hydrated skin. And, they are often, because the nervous system also is hydrated and has a really good smooth membrane, then they can take more stress than others as well. And so it shows with every element, it shows in the body as well as in the mind. And Ayurveda has then divided people into three basic categories, stemming again from the original three gunas of sattva, rajas, and tamas. But now we have moved on into matter, into the body. And now we're not referring to the gunas in itself anymore, because that is more to do with the subtle realm. So the mind can be described as sattvic or rajasic or tamasic. But the body, it's a different thing. So that's why we have the three doshas. And the word dosha, actually, it means something like fault. And that is not because there is something wrong with us, but because when we have a lot of one particular element, then that element is particularly prone to get out of balance. So, for example, if I have a lot of water in me, in the good sense, in the positive sense, when everything is in balance, then yes, my hair will be shiny and I will be well hydrated, smooth in body and in mind and speech and everything. However, if I, for some reason, for reasons we will get into a little bit later, but if for some reason that water element gets even more, then it tips, the balance tips, and it becomes an imbalance. And so that which we have a lot of can easily get imbalanced, and that's why it is referred to as fault, as dosha. And so the three doshas that we categorize all people into are vata, pitta, and kapha. And that means basically that somebody who has a lot of water element and also earth element, they often go together, that is a kapha person. Somebody who has a lot of fire element and also a little bit of water is a pitta person. And somebody who has a lot of air element and also a little bit of space, that is a vata person. And now when I say, air and space, or fire and water, or water and earth, that doesn't mean that they don't contain the other elements as well. Everybody, like I said, contains all elements, but there's always a dominance in some. And so these are the three basic types, the doshas, the doshic types. And this is purely for our help of understanding our nature. Now, in reality, there is, of course, no border. There is no edge that says, okay, this is where vata stops and kapha begins. Sometimes the lines can blur, and we can have two doshas quite similarly high, or sometimes even all three quite similarly high. It is very rare, however, to have somebody be completely the same. And also, there's another thing that we have to learn to distinguish, and that is when that dosha is in balance and when that dosha is out of balance, because we are all born with a certain dosha, with a certain doshic balance. And that could be purely kapha or purely vata or purely pitta or a mix of two or three. And that is our personal balance, and that is called prakriti. That is our nature, our personal nature, and that depends on many things, on our parents, our genetic code. It depends on our karma, on the time of the year, the season, the time of the day even we were born or we were created. It depends on many things. And that's the dosha we were born with, our prakriti. And there are also genetically, there are three very basic, the three basic races on this planet are the three basic doshas. So when we look at, for example, the northern type, like most of us here in these regions of Ireland, UK, Northern Europe, or Western Europe as well, most of us are, to some extent at least, in their basic nature, pitta types, because pitta is fire fire and a little bit of water. And why is that? Because it is cold in those regions generally, and we have been developed since many generations and many hundreds and thousands of years to live in colder climates, and that means our inner temperature reacts by being increased, and also because it is not easy in these climates to grow a lot of fruit and vegetables. So people here have always been eating more meat, and that requires a lot of digestive enzymes. So the acidity in the body is also higher. Also, generally, their appetite is higher, their appetite for protein, their ability to digest protein as well. But also because the sun is very little in comparison, their skin becomes light and prone to sunburn or freckles, and their hair is light and their eyes often are light. And that is the classical genetic Pitta type. But that doesn't mean that among all the genetic Northern European Pitta types, there can't be a Kapha type or a Vata type, because there are many layers of this, and also we are very rarely, genetically, if we did a DNA test, we would very rarely come out as one particular type. I've done a DNA test a while ago, and it was very interesting for me to see as well all the different, ancestral genetic codes that come into the mix. Then the Kapha type, that is the Asian type, and you can see, Asian people often, they do look very beautiful and shiny hair and beautiful shiny eyes and smooth skin, and they seem to never age. And and culturally, I think as well, Asian people have this softness to them and loveliness, and then the Vata types, the dark-skinned African types, where they come from climates that were very dry, and Vata is dryness, and so their bodies adapt and become also a little bit drier. The hair, you can see it, for example, the hair is drier, the bone structure, and they have this tendency also, they are the creative ones, really. They are, they have a very creative mind often, and they move a lot. And and I know this is all very stereotypical, but when we divide, the world into these three types, then we won't get around to do a little bit of stereotyping as well. I mean, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, they are stereotypes too. But in reality, of course, we're all mixed, very mixed. And this is the very basic, our basic nature, our prakriti. But then when we grow up over the course of our lives, things happen and influences happen. And of course, we are continuously in communication with our surroundings and with the surrounding communities and nature. And that changes us as well. And it is very, very rare that we remain in balance all through our life. And more likely is it that we are influenced by our environment in ways that at some stage our prakriti, our natural balance, is tipped over. So that means, for example, if as a Pitta person I eat so much meat, and that happens actually a lot because our society these days is very indulgent, and even though Pitta people can digest meat and probably need more meat maybe as well as in their basic nature than maybe Kapha people. But if they overdo it, if they start eating meat every day, and if they start drinking alcohol every day, I live here in Bavaria, and there's a very big tradition of meat and alcohol here. People drink their beer and eat a lot of pork. And then, of course, certain problems develop. And we'll talk about, those problems another time, but this is how the balance can tip. Or a kapha person, for example, who is already cool in nature, colder body temperature, if, for example, they should move to a colder climate and is constantly cold, that is not going to be great for them either. Or if a kapha person, for example, starts eating a lot of sweets, because kapha people are those types of people who have a tendency to develop diseases like diabetes, for example, diseases of accumulation. So they have to just be mindful of that. And Vata people are already dry and have to be mindful of not dehydrating. So they have to be nourished all the time. They have to be oiled, and from the inside and from the outside. And their nervous system, also has to be well looked after and nourished. So we just have to adapt really to our environment, and we have to just continuously look at our environment. What is it communicating to us? How do we react to the environment? It's a continuous dance of action and reaction. And this is what Ayurveda is all about, is this awareness of our surroundings and this dance that we dance all the time with it. There is something, an influence from the outside, and we react to it. If we want to, whether we want to or not, our bodies react to it. Our unconscious mind reacts to it. So we have to just learn to be very mindful of that. And so, if you would like to know what your dosha is, what your doshic type is, you can do a quiz on my website, www.sandrahayes.eu. You can also download my Ayurveda book from there. And but if you like to just have a little bit of an idea and reflect a little bit, then go and have a look and do the quiz and see what comes out for you. And that might give you some really valuable insights as well as to what is your nature and why do you react the way you react, or why are certain things the way they are. That might actually be a good explanation for you. So I hope this was useful for you, and I look forward to the next time. Bye for now. You were listening to a podcast on radical self-love, an Ayurvedic perspective of body and mind, by Sandra Hayes and the Little School of Happiness. For more information and offers, go to www.sandrahayes.eu.